Hello there. So today I'm going to be comparing MAC Face and Body Foundation with Dior Backstage Face and Body Foundation. I have never reviewed MAC Face and Body on my channel before, but I adore Dior Backstage Face and Body. It's one of my holy grail foundations. And I thought this video might be helpful for those of you who haven't tried either of these or like one and want to know if you might like the other. They're very similar in a lot of ways, but also quite different. I enjoy a lot of foundations that are great for all skin types, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to test these out, because they are both supposed to be good for all skin types. I will be 45 in August. I live in a very, very hot and humid climate the majority of the year here in New Orleans. I have oily combination skin, meaning that I get shiny in the T-zone, but the perimeter of my face is more normal and can sometimes get dry, just depending on what's going on. And so I want a foundation that is going to last on my skin, not break up or slip off or get so shiny that I have to blot all day long. What I want from a foundation is for it to even out my skin tone, look natural, enhance my skin, minimize my pores, and not settle into any fine lines and wrinkles as the day goes on. I've seen some comparisons of these in the past that have been great, but they've been done by people with dry or normal skin. So I wanted to give you my perspective with my climate conditions and my skin type. So let's go ahead and get into comparing these two face and body foundations. The bottles are clearly very similar aside from the finish. So I'll get into the finish in a minute, but the finish of each bottle really makes sense because the Dior has kind of a soft matte finish to the bottle, while the MAC has more of just, a shiny, normal plastic finish to its bottle. Really, the only difference in the shape of the bottles is the lid, and the dropper of the MAC bottle is a little bit more elongated. Both bottles are 50 mLs. The MAC retails for $31, whereas the Dior is $40. There are 40 shades of Dior Backstage Face and Body to choose from, while there are 13 shades of MAC Face and Body to choose from. They're both very fluid. They both just drop out of the bottle with this kind of liquidy, fluid, kind of water-like texture, and both run down the hand in a very, liquidy fashion. If you're looking for a foundation that feels very comfortable and lightweight on the skin, I don't think you could go wrong with either of these foundations. They both feel very nice on the skin. I have a lot of experience with Dior Backstage. I've been using this for a long time now. In these clips, I am applying both foundations over my Control Primer, which is my Hourglass Veil Mineral Primer. I just use it a ton, and I used it before applying these foundations for this video. It is super quick and easy to apply. You can really use any method: a brush, your fingers, a damp sponge, or a dry sponge. My favorite way to apply this is with a dry sponge. Number one, because I'm lazy and it allows me to not have to go to the bathroom wet and squeeze out a sponge. I can just sit down at my makeup table and start getting ready and apply. And you can see when you apply this, I hope you can see this from the clips, that it starts covering immediately. I mean, you really do just get this beautiful amount of coverage even with just this sheer layer of product, and it starts to smooth the pores upon that application. It's like your pores kind of start to disappear. So I do use my fingers on the other side for this foundation. I just find that personally that takes me longer. I'm able to get quicker, really even coverage with a dry sponge. And I think a lot of people don't think about using a dry sponge for more sheer foundations to build them a little bit more than you can with a damp sponge. But you can shear this out a little bit more with a damp sponge if you want to do that too. And that's one of the things that I love about the Dior Backstage foundation, is that I am able to just use a light sheer layer and it fuses with the skin. It really, really just minimizes the pores and evens out any redness. It looks like a more perfected, better version of your own skin. And it gives a soft matte finish almost right away, but it doesn't look fully matte. And I think that that is one of the reasons why a lot of people with dry skin also love this foundation. It does claim to be good for any skin type. So they say that the coverage is medium buildable for this, but I would say you can go from sheer light all the way to medium full coverage with this. and it still looks like skin. And it never looks like you have layers of foundation or even a layer of foundation on your skin. It's kind of miraculous that way. Now, although the textures seem the same upon, squirting them out of the bottle and seeing them drip down the hand like I showed you earlier, as opposed to being able to use any tool, I find that I much prefer to use my fingers as opposed to a sponge or a brush. Now, I can use a sponge, but I just don't like the way it applies nearly as much, and I don't like using a brush at all. When you start to apply them to the skin, you really, really notice a huge difference in these foundations. You really can't build on this until it sets to the skin. And it had been a lot of years since I had used this, and I had to kind of remind myself of that. But I like to warm it up between my hands, my fingers, and then either rub or press it into the face and massage it into the skin, almost like a lotion. And I find that that kind of fuses it with the skin because it's got this grippy texture to it. And you'll feel that as you apply it. It's kind of hard to explain, but you'll start to feel it kind of fuse with the skin. And that first layer is kind of a sheer layer, but you notice that it is a pretty satiny, dewy finish. So once that first layer kind of grips down to the skin, then you can go in with another layer and massage it in kind of the same way. And if you want to build it again, you repeat that process. So MAC Face and Body is not quite as user-friendly as Dior in terms of applying as quickly and as easily. Now, the coverage is supposed to be sheer buildable coverage, and I would agree with that. I don't feel like I get as much coverage from MAC Face and Body. I would say I can build it up to, medium coverage, maybe slightly under medium full, but that's if I just keep repeating those layers and repeating those layers. And that just takes a little bit more time, not 10 minutes worth of time, but just a little bit more time and effort, and then I've got to wipe all that foundation off of my hands, which is kind of a pain. So I do give the edge here to Dior. It just takes more work and more layers, but the layers still look like skin. Now, the Dior looks like perfected skin. It minimized those pores. That doesn't happen with MAC Face and Body. It really looks like a more evened out, beautiful version, a more enhanced version of your skin, but you can still kind of see your pores. And I've said this in many videos before. We're supposed to have pores. It's not like it's enhancing the pores. It just looks like your skin. And you do get a more satin, dewy finish with MAC Face and Body, whereas you get a more natural matte finish with Dior. After setting MAC Face and Body, I get, kind of a velvety matte finish for a while. MAC Face and Body claims to be water resistant, whereas Dior Backstage Face and Body claims to be waterproof and sweat resistant. Also very, very good for high heat and humidity, which speaks to me for where I live. They also both claim to be long wearing. However, MAC claims to be long wearing up to 8 hours. Dior doesn't actually give a time frame from what I could find. So my experience with both in regards to this water resistance, sweat proof, long wear claims, I have worn both on extremely long days. I have worn both through workouts, and the MAC Face and Body, I would say on a regular day, does give me, 8 or 9 hours before everything starts to kind of wear down. And I do get shiny with MAC Face and Body, which makes sense for my skin type. I have to blot about 2 to 3 hours in and blot several times throughout the day, but my skin always looks nice and my makeup doesn't start to break down or wear away or anything until maybe that 8-hour mark, 9-hour mark. Now, if I work out in MAC Face and Body, I don't know if sweat resistance is different than water resistance, but there's something about sweating in this foundation that does kind of melt my makeup. Traces of it are still there, but it just doesn't really look that great after a workout. It's not like I'm gonna be able to just dab off and go somewhere, which may or may not be a concern to you if you happen to sweat. But if you live somewhere like I do, where you're outside and you can bead up with sweat walking from your house to your car, that could be an issue. Dior, on the other hand, I have worn on 12 to 14 hour days and my makeup still looks nice. I could probably go 4 to 6 hours depending on the circumstances without blotting for the first time, and I can work out in this foundation and my makeup stays intact after. I mean, full sweat and my makeup looks good. Both are supposed to be great for all skin types. I'll just say for my oily combination skin, the Dior Backstage Face and Body performs better for me all around, even though the MAC Face and Body does look quite nice for a little while. I just really don't like radiant dewy foundations where I have to blot a lot. That's just my personal preference. I think it's perfect for normal to dry skin types, and it does claim to also be moisturizing, which is great for that too. Now, it does have talc added to it, so there's a ding for it there, whereas Dior has some alcohol added to it, and it has that Dior fragrance. Why do all high-end brands have to add their signature fragrance to their products? I don't know. So they both have some dings going for them as far as ingredients go, but my thoughts on that are, you know, if you're layering this over your skincare, your sunscreen, your primer, and you're alternating with other foundations, that's going to be your call on how you feel about those things being in your ingredient lists. I think both face and body foundations are really, really great in very, very different ways. If you want a satin dewy foundation that's going to give you a realistic skin finish, then MAC Face and Body is going to be the way to go. Perfect for normal to dry skin types, and really for any skin type if you like that type of a finish. If you want a foundation that is quick to apply and that's going to give you a very, very skin-like finish that is more perfected yet still realistic looking, that is where I would go with Dior. Still great for any skin type. I specifically think that normal to oily skin would really, really love Dior. And I'm sticking with my Dior Backstage Face and Body. This just works better for my particular skin type. If you haven't seen my Holy Grail foundations video, I will link it here for you. I would like to know which you like out of these two. If you've tried both, leave that for me in the comments below and let me know why. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.